Hello and welcome back to JimMurphyMP.com, a way of keeping in touch with local and national news. And I've just been to my advice surgeries. I'm going to rush home now to watch the Scotland game against the Czech Republic. It's a big week in the international footballing stage, with Scotland playing the world champions at Hampden on Tuesday. So all the best to Scotland, all the best to all the home nation teams actually in these games. It's a big two of them that they're trying to get into the European Championship. So all the best. And a couple of days after that Scotland-Spain game, much less dramatically, I'll be playing in a game just next to Hampden, less at Hampden, as a team of politicians take on a team of former professionals. So come along if you're on the south side of Glasgow next Friday. Marvel at the continued skill of the former pros and laugh at the lack of skill of the current politicians, all in a good cause, showing racism the red card. And I think there's still a need for initiatives like this, sadly. You look around and a lot of progress has been made in getting rid of racism from football, but not enough. Just one example is we don't yet have enough of a pool of talent of youngsters and others of Asian origin, Asian descent. There are some really talented young Asian footballers, but not enough, so we still have to do more. And I hope this initiative helps in some small way in continuing to challenge racism in football. More widely than that, of course, it's been a busy time in the world of politics, the elections to the Shadow Cabinet, and I was delighted to be elected by my fellow MPs, and even more so that Ed Miliband offered me the one job in the Shadow Cabinet that I most wanted, the Shadow Secretary of State for Defence. So I know the responsibility I have, and it's a great honour. I've always had the view that the government's number one priority has got to be the defence of our country and the support of our armed forces. But more than that, I also believe that it's the opposition's number one priority to do what we can to support our armed forces and to help keep our country safe. And that's why, when the government's right, I'll say so. I'll be one of the first to do so. I won't say it quietly, I'll say it very clearly indeed. And I hope I'm able to do that on a whole range of issues over the next wee while and support the decisions that are taken. But my worry is that a government that's so determined to cut a deficit so deeply, so quickly, will come to some rash decisions that won't command public support. So for example, in the cuts in public services, the abolition of the Future Jobs Fund, these decisions are all driven by determination to cut the deficit too quickly. And in support of our armed forces, I hope that their determination to make big cuts in public spending doesn't lead to decisions that in any way jeopardise our armed forces. And I hope that is the case when we go through the Strategic Defence Review. And I look forward to playing a part in the Strategic Defence Review on behalf of the Labour Party, but much more importantly on behalf of our armed forces and our country. Finally, in this issue of my recent promotion to the Shadow Secretary of State for Defence, is that I've always had a view that some people, a minority of people in our country, take for granted the work of our armed forces. And I think we've all got to find ways and new ways to celebrate the daily work and the regular sacrifice of so many. I'm conscious that when my advice surgeries, I go home this evening to watch the football, or I spend a weekend with my family, there are tens of thousands of families across Britain who aren't able to do that because their mum or their dad or their son or their daughter or their uncle or their aunt is in active service abroad, who's in uniform and who may be in harm's way, for example, in Afghanistan. And I think it's incumbent on us all, regardless of our view, of whatever conflict, that politicians vote to send these remarkable men and women in harm's way, and that we have a responsibility to support them in any way we can. Because after all, our armed forces are Britain at their best and at their bravest. And I think that we all have a responsibility. And I'll be fulfilling that role in finding new ways to celebrate the remarkable achievements of these men and women in uniform. That's all for just now. Get in touch, as usual, with any comments about this blog, by email, by Twitter, on Facebook, or any other way. Thanks very much. All the best. Bye-bye.